All right, good morning, everyone. It's 8:30. We'll call this meeting, the fiscal committee meeting to order here. All right, first item on our agenda this morning is a resolution authorizing a third year of the previously approved three-year contract with Invisio Solutions Incorporated in an amount of $26,250 for 2022 for an organizational performance management tracking and reporting system for a three-year contract in the amount of $89,850.
So moved.
All right, it has been moved and supported. Ms. Claren, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is basically the main tool we use to track our performance management in the city. It's a great database, and we're still we update it every quarterly basically right now, just to keep up with our performance, and it informs how we budget in the next fiscal year. So.
All right, very good. Colleagues, questions for Molly? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is an ordinance amending Section 1 of the Budget Ordinance 2021-13 for fiscal year 2022, Amendment Number 7.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Ms. Claren again.
Okay, this first item is the 61st District Court. It is a drug and sobriety court grant. This is through the Office of Community Corrections and the Michigan Drug Court Grant Program for the 2022 Drug Sobriety Court Program. The amounts for total receipts of $347,000, and total with the match, I believe it's $404,000. This would be we'd be using appropriated funds we reserve in the general fund for this grant with no effect on fund balance. And we're also authorizing an increase of $408,000 of revenue and appropriations for the 61st District Court Grants Fund with no effect on fund balance. Number 2 is another item from the 61st District Court. This is actually a coronavirus emergency supplemental funding grant through the Michigan State Police Office, $159,845 in revenue appropriation to the 61st District Court Grants Fund with no effect on fund balance. The next two are implementing some of the plans we have for our ARPA allocation. We talked about it at our November commission retreat. So this is utilizing that revenue replacement in the mobile GR fund. So the first one is for it's going to fund the stair railing replacements. It's going to authorize an increase of $1,112,300 in revenue and appropriations for the parking capital projects grant or capital projects fund with no effect on retained earnings. The second one is related to meter modernization. This would authorize an increase of $300,000 in revenue and appropriations into the capital projects fund for parking with no effect on retained earnings. Our contingency balance remains unchanged at $1,401,145.
All right, colleagues, any questions for the comptroller? Or, excuse me, Ms. Claren. All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 3, resolution authorizing bid list for January 25, 2022.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported. Colleagues, any questions about any of these bid items? Anything you'd like to point out, Ms. Coleman?
Oh, I just want to point out the last item, Kerr Pump, was for the emergency purchase that had to do with the budget amendment
Okay.
last meeting.
Very good.
Thank you.
All right, with no questions, those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, forecasting report, January 25, 2022. Colleagues, any questions? All right, hearing none, that report is received and filed. Item 5, warrant report, 12/29/2021 through 1/11/2022, small claims, fourth quarter 2021, and travel report 12/21. Mr. Comptroller.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Mayor. So for the period of December 29th through January 11th, the city released payments totaling just under $17.1 million, and that includes approximately $4.7 million for our employees' payroll expenses, and then also just over $32,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, that equated to 168 income tax refunds being issued and 1,081 checks being issued. And on the following 3 pages, we contain a breakdown of all checks issued exceeding the amount of $20,000. Also here we have our quarterly small claims report. So the period of time covered in this report is October of 2021 through December, so 3-month period. And it details the number and amount of small claims that the city paid out during this time. We paid out 15 small claims totaling just over $23,000. And lastly, this morning, we have our monthly travel report here, which details travel spend by city department for the first 6 months of the fiscal year. And the report shows that during that time, we've spent a total of $431,000, or about 20% of the overall annual budget so far this year.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Comptroller. Colleagues, questions? All right, hearing none, that report will be received and filed. And our final item on the agenda this morning is the Treasurer's Report for period December 29, 2021 through January 11, 2022. Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
And Mayor Bliss. What we're pointing out today is really what's happening in the market, where we're seeing, I'm showing you a graph that we're showing where the Treasury yields, our interest rates are expected to rise pretty quickly. The blue line at the top is actually the pre-pandemic. The red line is where we're seeing those rates today, where they're going to be moving. Right now, the consistent estimates seem to be between 2 and 4 interest rate hikes during the next 12 months. We're expecting more comments from the Fed Thursday of this week, so hopefully we'll start hearing some more information of what those easing strategies are going to be, the fewer purchases of the different government securities, and actually seeing those interest rates. I don't think they're going to move right away. I think it's not going to be until March is probably going to be the first one we're going to see. But really the strength of our portfolio is the fact that we plan 2 different things. One is for liquidity, and we have a significant amount of funds that are in that liquid portion, including our ARPA dollars. And I just wanted to put a segment in there to remind the Commission that we will have an additional $46 million of ARPA funds coming in May 2022. So that's the second half that we'd be expecting of the $92 million that was awarded to the city. We also have a second portion where we invest out longer. The nice thing about this is that we're positioned, and through the exceptional work of Levi Bolt, and he and I collaborate on this, we have $198 million that is going to mature between 2022, 23, 24. So this is where we're going to be placing those investments at higher interest rates and earning more money for the city. So that's important for us because this is the way our strategy works. So we're actually looking at 36% of our portfolio. We're going to be able to reposition based on city needs and also earn a higher interest rate. So right now we have $552 million placed in investments, earning 1.28%. And so this is where we're now going to start riding that wave, riding that interest rate up. And that's really going to be exceptional for the city, because then we'll be able to have more funds to be able to put to use. So with that, that is our Treasurer's Report for this week.
Very good. Colleagues, questions for the Treasurer? All right, hearing none. With that, the report we received and filed. And that will conclude our fiscal committee at 8:38. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll call the meeting to order, the Community Development Meeting for Tuesday, January 25th at 9:15, according to that clock there. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
You all doing well? Good. I don't see a nod down there, James. Are you okay? Okay, great. Okay, we'll start with our first resolution, which is a resolution authorizing assessor to spread nuisance charges for certain outstanding accounts receivables. Roll number 8764, totaling $497,049.84.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Support.
Thank you. Sorry, that was on me because I was ready to hear.
This is our semi-annual request to have the assessor start the process to begin the nuisance special assessment rule. This is, as you indicated, it's $497,049.84. It represents 1,894 invoices. It is it's averaging about 18% lower than the prior 2 years that we billed prior to COVID for that same time period. The invoices we're billing are for the time period with due dates between July 1st and December 31st. If you need a little bit more statistics on it, the lienable invoices only represent about 27% of the invoices that we billed for that same time frame. And that's the number of invoices, and it's about 16% of the actual amount that we billed for that time frame. So it's pretty standard. That's still running a little lower than normal, but it is a little higher than the last one that you authorized.
Thank you. Any questions or comments, colleagues?
Not about this.
None? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? It carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second resolution is approving an agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation for the implementation of safety improvements along Eastern Avenue between Kenosha Drive and 36th Street, along Eastern Avenue between Wealthy Street and Alger Street, and at the intersection of Kalamazoo Avenue and Hall, with a total project cost of $1,133,000.
So, support.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. So the city has been very successful over the last decade in receiving state funding for safety improvements. So with this project, we would be able to focus investments on upgrading existing traffic signal equipment, pedestrian signal upgrades, and other detection at various intersections along the Eastern Avenue corridor. And this is a very large safety project. It's a little bit larger than some of our other ones, and we've broken it into 3 parts. So the Part A is focused on Eastern with Kenosha Drive, 32nd and 36th Street intersections. Part B, I'm not going to read all those intersections, but are listed there in the resolution for you. And then Part C is actually focused specifically on Eastern Avenue and Burton Street and some of the safety improvements at that intersection. And it's listed at the very end of this, but we received about $790,000 in federal funding. Then we have our local construction costs, which are funded out of the Vital Streets program, as well as other federal non-participating costs in the resolution for a total project cost of $1.133 million.
Thank you. And so I'm just curious to know then, I know that there's construction on Eastern at Burton that's forthcoming. And so this is the precursor to that. Will it still slow down traffic and close things off, or how does that work with the safety measures?
So specifically at Eastern and Burton is going to be targeting the southeast corner, and it'll actually be eliminating the right turn and increasing the sidewalk width there. So that portion of it will be a little bit more disruptive than the rest of it, which is mostly signal upgrades that will be done outside in the right of way. Some of the detection equipment will also be intermittent in there, but that intersection, it should not take much time to be able to do that piece.
Great, and happy to hear of that expansion. I know that was one of the items in the business area specific plan for Southtown, and it's very dangerous. To stand on that corner, I don't know if you've ever done it, but it's like, you feel like your life is flashing before you, so thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? It carries. Our third resolution is approving a fireworks discharge permit for Feld Entertainment Inc., DBA Disney on Ice, for indoor special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with the Disney on Ice Mickey and Friends performances on February 10th through 13th. Motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
It's Disney on Ice. You know,
That's all you have to say.
How scary could it be, right?
Any comments or questions? Any visitors who want to go and check it out, or, okay. I tried, Ted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? It carries. Thank you. Our next one is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for high-tech special effects for indoor special effects at the Van Andel Arena in connection with the Skillet Winter Jam 2022 concert on February 18th, 2022.
Support.
okay, that would be a better one to visit if you want to visit one, but
Okay.
next month I'll be here with one that would be even better, so.
Yeah.
When Janet comes back, that's the one I... What is Skillet Winter Jam?
Well, Skillet's, it's a music concert, so Skillet's just one of the groups that are playing. It's a bunch of groups coming in. It's a low-cost concert for, I guess, anybody, but it's Christian-based, so I think tickets are $10 a person or maybe 15.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good show. I mean, Skillet's got some good music, and it's on regular radio, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Did I call the motion? All in favor? I did?
No.
I didn't.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pose same sign?
Aye, hold on. Yeah, you got a motion, didn't you? Yeah.
Did I call it?
You didn't call the vote yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. We're going to get through this.
We are going to get through this.
Okay, so I'm going to call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Thank you.
All right, see you next month.
Thank you. All right, next we have a resolution approving an agreement with Isaac V. Norris and Associates, PC, for the final design phase for improvements to Martin Luther King Jr. Lodge in the amount of $550,000 with a total project not to exceed the amount of $684,000.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners. I don't have a request for fireworks, but I feel like I should. We're entering into final design phase at Martin Luther King Park Lodge. This is a significant step. We've been working closely with the neighbors in preliminary design and now beginning to advance to that final design stage for a full reconstruction and rebuild of the lodge. So over 90% of the residents voted for this direction, and so we're excited to be going this way, and this contract extension will allow us to take that step forward.
Great.
Thank you, and thank you for going back to kind of hyperlize the local neighborhoods, those who are directly impacted, who live across the street from the park, to get even more feedback after the first phase of feedback. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments? I had just a question on timeline, because we've been having this conversation for so long. Just curious to know what the timeline is looking like. And then my second question is, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we allocated funding from the Third Ward Equity Fund for the lodge, but I'm not seeing it in the funding structure that was a part of this agenda item. So I'm not sure if we're no longer in need of those dollars because of some changes and where you've gotten grants from, or if that's forthcoming. So just curious about that as well.
Right. So the funds that have been set aside for Third Ward are still in the bank, if you will, and will be used for reconstruction and build of the project, in addition to millage funding and fundraising that the Friends of Grand Rapids Parks organization has committed to.
And then timeline?
We anticipate this final design phase to last for several months before we get completed and are able to bid this project out.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, please.
So,
Aaron.
Commissioner, I'll go back and check about specifically Third Ward equity allocation out of the $750,000 I think you might be referring to.
Yeah.
But we did set aside, it was $1 million and some change in the capital reserve fund. And that's what Mr. Marquardt is referring to. And then also, Mr. Marquardt has allocated, and you have allocated, Commission's allocated money from the Parks Millage Fund. And that provides the base for this. We still have fundraising to do. because it's estimated at $8 million cost, I believe.
That is correct.
So, we're looking to get that done, and Friends is one potential source that is committed to help, but we may need others as well.
Great,
So
okay.
I'll go back and check to see if there was anything from the 750, but I think we covered it with the $1 million that was in the capital reserve fund.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds good. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. Our last and final resolution is a resolution approving final design and bidding phase services with Fishbeck for the Grand River Edges Trail East, Leonard to Ann, in the amount of $284,000. $284,000 and $33, I'm sorry, $284,033. With the total not to exceed 400, and I'm sorry, more agenda, not to exceed $491,250.
Support.
Great, thank you. This, too, is a project in a similar phase. We're headed into final design on this project after a award recognition from the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Board for $900,000 to support project work at this location. Similarly, we've got the West Michigan Trails and Greenways Foundation committing to significant fundraising for this work. So as we work through this final design phase, we anticipate being able to get into the ground rather quickly on this project.
Any questions or comments? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It carries. That concludes our community development meeting. Meeting adjourned.
he in his office? Oh, happy birthday, Commissioner. How old are you now? 22? All right. Good morning, everyone. We're going to call this meeting to order. This is our committee of the whole meeting on this lovely January 25th. So we'll get started. Commissioners, we have a couple action items. We have a briefing after that, and then we have 2 executive sessions. So I'll call for the vote to go into executive session. And then also just a reminder, Commissioner Moody is out of town today. So he is not joining us for COW, and he will not be here tonight. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. We have our first item, this resolution adopting the 2022 Parks and Recreation Strategic Master Plan. Can I get a motion? Support. All right, moved and supported. We have our Parks Director here to tell us about this item. I know we are already familiar with this. We've had a public hearing, and I know that we've heard from our Parks Advisory Board as well.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. Thank you very much for entertaining the adoption of this important plan. As you all well are aware, this is a 5-year update required by the state of Michigan in order for us to remain eligible for grant funding. We're at the point here, after public hearing, Park Advisory Board recommendation of approval and adoption. There will be a quick turnaround after today to get this plan submitted at an earlier deadline from the DNR of February 1st. Whereas the 2017 plan had more to do about grounding the department and setting a new vision and direction, the 2022 master plan updates really have more to do about sharpening our focus on some of those really important efforts. For example, the Martin Luther King Park Lodge reconstruction and the renovations proposed for the Roosevelt Lodge, really allowing us to take significant strides forward and commitments from our partners at Friends of Grand Rapids Parks to make those projects possible. More specifically, this plan does include sustainable operational practices that we've discussed with many of you in commission briefings and updates. We have included some new language around climate adaptation and environmental justice, important components to the plan. We've also added components that speak to sports tourism and destination activities and the importance that those play in Grand Rapids and economic development, as well as public art components and cultural initiatives that we're embedding in each of our projects. So with these updates, we are seeking your approval and adoption of this important plan, and we thank you for your participation throughout this process.
Great, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? I'll just add, I know those of you who serve on CD, we are happy to see move forward this morning some additional funding for design improvements for our MLK Park Lodge. That's been a priority for quite some time, so it's good to see that move forward, and I know it's been talked about a lot with this plan. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Lanier?
Just a quick one. Thank you so much for this update. I'm curious to know if there have been any conversations through some of your engagement surrounding the outdoor basketball courts and maybe covering them in some way. I know that I've heard of concerns. I don't play outdoor basketball. But I've heard of concerns that in the summer when the sun is high, it's challenging to play. And so, people wait until later in the day, but there are covers that you can have that goes over a court. So I'm just curious if through some of the engagement throughout the city, if you've heard of any of that and if you've investigated costs associated with maybe covering some of those basketball courts so we can have people utilizing them, especially during those summer months, more frequently.
Yes, Commissioner, great point, and thank you for that question. We did hear some remarks about that during our public outreach. We've also heard that through specific design efforts in neighborhoods across the city. So it is one thing that we're looking into, more shade coverage for important play spaces like that. A couple of ways in which we can accomplish that is planting more trees in some of those areas, in addition to looking at shade sails that you had pointed out as well.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Mayor?
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and I want to express my appreciation to David and the Parks Department staff, the Parks Advisory Board, in really leaning forward pretty progressively in the plan. It is ecological, it factors in, it's relevant to some of the things we're experiencing in the pandemic, and it really leans into equity. And so I'm very pleased with it. And when you read it, it's actually refreshing because it gives us a good historical account of where we have been with our park system and where we're going. And I really, really appreciate the effort from staff as well as the public in weighing into it.
Thank you, City Manager. All right, no further questions or comments. I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that will take us to our next item. This is a resolution approving a revised brownfield plan amendment for the West Michigan Construction Institute redevelopment project at 801 Century Avenue Southwest. Can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
Support. All right, moved and supported. We have our Economic Development Director here to tell us about this. And again, this item, several of us have heard about it a few times now, and we had a public hearing at our recent commission meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good morning, Commissioners, City Manager. So this is the final resolution approving that revised brownfield plan amendment for 801 Century, which is now home to the West Michigan Construction Institute. Again, this is the amendment is to facilitate the loan funding for the from the local brownfield revolving fund for eligible expenses in the amount of up to $259,000 for brownfield eligible activities. This particular project, again, also participated in our inclusion plan and has a little over 10% commitment, or I guess commitment and results, really, because the project is complete, and using MBE, WBE, and MLBE projects. And again, this was through the process of being presented to the Economic Development Project Team in December, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority in early December, and a public hearing on January 11th, and today's the final resolution.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll just make a comment that I'm glad to see that they selected a piece of property here in the city. I know there was a lot of discussion about where they wanted to build this institute, and it was, I think, just a couple weeks before the pandemic. I was out meeting with some of the board members, making the case for Grand Rapids, so I'm glad to see it move forward. Commissioner Repart, did you want to make any comment?
I was going to say a similar thing. The location is perfect. I know that they just gave a tour to the neighborhood association and are already talking about ways that they can get the students involved who are involved in the institute, building things for the neighborhood. So I think it's going to be a great partnership.
Yeah, thanks. All right, any other final questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It carries. All right, Commissioners, that will take us through our two items. I think before we go into our briefing, I will call the question to go into executive session and do that vote and get it out of the way. So then after the briefing, we'll just take a 5-minute break, and then we'll reconvene down in 601. Is that right? In room 601. So can I get a motion to go into executive session after this briefing? And it's for pending litigation and a legal opinion. Support. All right, moved and supported, and I'll start down here. Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier? Yes. Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
And Commissioner Isasi?
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes. All right, so that takes us through our action items, and we will now hear a briefing from our equity office. We have Mr. Jordan Eatman with us and Ms. Stacy Stout.
City manager and elected officials and appointed. Today, I'm here to talk about the 2021 Grand Rapids Neighborhood Summit in summary. Kicking that off, we all know that the summit purpose is to increase resident awareness, skills, and networks for the improved, sustained change for stronger neighborhoods resulting in a stronger city, which was really put from our previous known master plan that we now call our community master plan. So that's where that has derived from. The values of summit remains to be resident voice and racial equity. And I want to give a little bit of the summary of overall the cumulative data before we break into a little bit more of the details about it. And so we had about 2,188 plus attendees, and we put the plus there because we actually had a great problem that we ran out of wristbands and we ran out of registration packages to get that accurate number. So that's the first time that has happened in the history of Summit. And so this is a really good thing, or a really good problem to have. About 87%, about 88% of those residents that attended, people that attended were residents. We had about 116 resource tables, about 77 youth participants, and that was any age up into about 1 to about 17. And then for the teen activities, about 37. Community volunteers throughout the whole experience, we had about 114, and then we had 67 total staff from across the system that volunteered. And that was intentional this year as we embraced really one of our core values of collaboration. It was intentional that we literally reached out across multiple departments to serve the community as a large. About 78% of the budget was spent with BIPOC businesses, and about 85% of the total budget was spent in Grand Rapids. So it was very important for us to keep the dollar in the community. As a result, though, as we look at that 2,188 plus attendees, I do want to note that out of that, 303 total residents participated in the evaluation as we move forward with some of the rest of this presentation. Summit at a glance, we went from a one-day event typically for Summit that you saw into a 5-day event. Our care for community, we want to make sure that we had a way to continue Summit in a very safe space. And so the best version to do that with under these conditions of the pandemic was to expand Summit to alleviate a large gathering of spaces at one particular time. We want to make sure we can safely bring people together. So we had an opening ceremony that was held downtown along with the closing ceremony. And then we had a representation in each ward representing the parks. We open each of our summits with land recognition, understanding who this land belonged to prior to the City of Grand Rapids forming, and so we make sure that is included in all of our documentation and interaction as we do Summit each year. Our keynote speaker this year was Grand Rapids born and raised Tempest Robinson out of Robinson Consulting Partners. She has 12 plus years of working in the public sector, as well as partner with a few of the West Michigan entities listed there before you. Her keynote address topic was the pressure of West Michigan and the retaining a diverse talent. And that was a really, I won't say forecasting, but it was really relevant to what was going on that we're seeing previously and then right now. Each of the park events, I would like to point out that we had a check-in station to make sure that we were practicing our protocols put in place to ensure people were safe. Resource tables that were ward-specific and that was citywide. Also, family activities. We wanted to make sure that we could not keep with the typical child summit and child services and kids summit, that we still have something that all families can get together and enjoy as a unit. Teen Zone and College Corner, which we intentionally collaborated with our community's children and Shannon Harris. We had a neighborhood association zone intentionally so that way residents could connect with their representatives that represent them in their neighborhood. Keynote opening remarks with a panel discussion, workshops, and then closing remarks as well. So each Summit Park had a little bit of its own opening and closing ceremony component to it. As you see here across the board, what we had with ethnicity about the attendees from Richmond Park to Summit Marketplace, which we will hit later on in this presentation, you will see that we still have a large non-Latinx representation, but we also see that there has, depending on the ward, there was an increase of Latinx participation across the board there. When it comes to race of the events, or the attendees, you will see here that primarily we had a lot of our white counterparts who attended the majority of this event, except for Ward 3. Ward 3 actually had the largest mix of racial attendees that were there across the board. And so you will see predominantly the third ward is historically Latinx and Black or BIPOC driven, and this kind of reflects those same findings. Gender as well, we have male, female, and non-binary, those who don't identify as either male or female, representation across the board there. As you will see, except for Summit Marketplace, our women counterparts have dominated Summit in this year and previous years alike, and so that is on trend to what we have already seen. And then also when you see here, when you're looking at this next one, it talks about the ward park representation. What you'll see here is actually the column 1 is Summit well organized. The second column, which you will see in the middle, excuse me, is a Summit met your expectations, and then would you recommend Summit to others? Each year, this number continuously increases, and by far this year, this past Summit was our highest remarks in regards to Summit meeting their expectations, Summit being something that they would recommend, and Summit being well organized under the circumstances that we had to deal with this COVID-19. As you will see here again, I want to point out that across all the boards of those who attended, again, only 303 people participated in this. What you will see is that for Ward 1, we had about 60 participants that contributed to this survey. Ward 2, we had 114 participants. And then Ward 3, we had 129. We did not collect data in regards to Marketplace because that was not a Summit experience. That was a closing ceremony. So we do not have any data that's representing the Summit Marketplace, which was the part of the closing ceremony. We're going to highlight some of the pictures here, and you're going to see some familiar faces. As you will see, this is mixed in with community and staff alike. And so as you will see here in Ward 1, which was in Richmond Park, we have registration, and one of our community partners that our office loves to partner with is We Are Lit. Again, in Second Ward, which was in Riverside Park, you will see here some more activities, and also one of our teen art therapists that we intentionally had. We want to make sure that our youth or our teen participants had a way to express what they've been feeling since this pandemic, and we want to make sure we cope with that with actual therapists, from local therapists at that. Ward 3, which you will see here again with some city representation, but also Commissioner Moody, which is in the middle there. On that, I want to say, what is that line? On spend, thank you. All right, and Summit Marketplace this year was pretty new. This was the first time, as you know, this inaugural induction. Summit Marketplace, we knew from the stats that the BIPOC community, especially when we talk about businesses and sustainability over this pandemic, were hit the hardest. And so we want to make sure that we have some intentionality as far as how are we going to highlight community and highlight the services that we have in our own yard. And so what we decided to do was come up with the Summit Marketplace, which really brought about over 30 plus BIPOC business owners to downtown area who have never been able to showcase their work and their talent before downtown. And this was something that was heartfelt. We actually had literally maybe out of the 33 plus businesses there, only 5 that did not sell out of everything. So this had a huge impact for not only the businesses that participated, but also for community being able to know who these businesses are and what services that they provide. Here are some of these highlights that are highlighting some of the pictures and what we captured here for the Summit Marketplace. And particularly there, we actually had the group of the clinicians of color, which was formed through the Neighborhood Match Fund, that were able actually to receive a Neighborhood Match Fund reward there. So we actually highlighted those previous participants in the Neighborhood Match Fund cohorts. Again, we have our ACM got called onto the stage to participate in some cultural dancing there. It was great to see that. Again, here are some other businesses. And as you see here, I just want to highlight this arch here, and this rainbow arch. We made sure that we had, typically Summit can always seem a little, where do you go? Where am I supposed to go to check in? We kind of wanted to alleviate that situation by having something overarching that would connect community to say, okay, well, I don't know where I'm going, but that looks interesting, so let me head there. And it actually was effective. Again, more pictures highlighting that. Here are some examples of what residents actually pulled and stayed from the evaluation that they talked about regarding Summit this year. And then moving forward, we also have our leadership team. And these are all community partners across the sector here that help contribute to make Summit what it is. Without this community partnership, we won't have a true tone to what residents are asking, what's on their minds, and what is at the heart of what they want to address. And so we really use these partnerships and the strategic people to make sure that we are highlighting what needs to be there regarding that. without these Summit sponsors, Summit would not be free. So because of these sponsors that you see here, including the City of Grand Rapids being the premier sponsor, this remains a free event for residents to attend. We prioritize Grand Rapids residents. It's open to anybody, but we prioritize the attendance of Grand Rapids residents, and this remains a factor of being free to the public as a result of these sponsors. So what's new for 2022 Summit? 2022 Summit will be returning to its one-day event. We will be going back to Grand Valley State University. It's May 21st from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We are returning childcare, Kids Summit, and a teen track, to make sure that our residents are having that nostalgic of bringing back what they need to have that help them to curate Summit to what it is today. Along with bringing back some wellness activities and partnering with our Parks and Rec department, we will be returning breakfast and lunch. That was one of the things that a lot of people look forward to, so we understood that. Cultural presentations and workshops. This year's theme is really building equitable and healthy communities, which these tracks and this is based off of the social and political determinants of health. So what you will see in this year's summit will be these 5 tracks listed here, one being healthy neighborhoods, social and community connectedness, educational equity and inclusion, safe neighborhoods, and economic stability. Some additional highlights there, as you'll see here, we will definitely be bringing back the Grand Rapids Participatory Budget Engagement that was there at last year's summit. Our Community Master Plan Engagement Opportunity, which also was highlighted by Planning Department, so thank you for doing that again. We will be talking about a hybrid option, just in case those residents who don't necessarily feel comfortable being in attendance, that they do have an option to highlight or still be a participant in Summit. Revamp the evaluation tool and process to increase responses. Revamp the Summit app. And then also to expand and recruit more Summit planning members. This is a big task for us, and so the more hands that we have, the easier this lift is to be able to serve the residents effectively. With that, that does round up the presentation today for Summit, and I am open for any questions.
Mayor, before we get to questions, I should have done this on the front end. In addition to the great work Mr. Eatman has done in the summit and also in the Office of Neighborhood and working with other events and helping with our ERG groups. He has done such a phenomenal work that others outside the organization has recognized his value, and I need to congratulate him on his promotion to an executive working for Experience Grand Rapids as one of their vice presidents, and will be taking over the majority of the work that Angela Nelson performed previously. So appreciate his work and also wish him well in his future success, and outstanding job on the summary of the summit from this past year.
Thank you, City Manager. I appreciate that. It's been an honor to work here. I'm not leaving this without the core values walking with me, and that's what it's about, right? That continued partnership and expanding the reach of what we do here at the city. So I'm extremely pleased and excited to be able to extend that and walk in that in this new organization. So, but thank you for what I've been able to contribute to the City of Grand Rapids and serving with you all. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll add my congratulations, even though I saw you at the last Experience Grand Rapids meeting, and I was able to congratulate you then. So I have just a couple thoughts, and I'll open it up for questions. So I'm glad to see the plan for this year. I was able to stop by all 5 of the events last year, and it was a lot, and I know some of us really wanted to be at every single one, and I think it was probably exhausting for all of the staff that showed up for 5 days. But I also think that there's real value in bringing everybody together from across the city and not having it separate by wards. But I do think that there was a lot of appreciation for the park parties, so I hope that continues, but maybe separate from the summit. My question is really twofold. One, the Summit Marketplace was a real hit, and I wonder if that could be incorporated into the summit this year, even at the tail end of the summit or even in the later afternoon. I just think it's really important to highlight our local businesses, especially our businesses who are owned by people of color and women. So that's one question. And then my second question is, I'm glad to see on here the topics, and in regards to safe neighborhoods, I think it's a great opportunity for hopefully our new police chief to get out and to meet folks in the neighborhood. So hopefully once we have a new chief on board, that individual can be reached out to and figure out how they can be engaged. And I was able to sit in a public safety meeting, and I know we have a lot of great work happening internally around crime prevention as well, and obviously with our co-response team. And I just think Summit's a great way to let people know about that, and also let them know how they can stay engaged around making sure we have safe neighborhoods.
Thank you for those two questions. One, the safe neighborhoods component of it does incorporate a piece of community policing and policing overall. So there will be some involvement with that. So thank you for that. And then also for the Summit Marketplace, we are potentially entertaining a part 2 of that, which will be in the summer, which would encompass the Summit Marketplace to remain a part of Summit. So that is a potential thing that we were looking into.
Okay, great. Glad to hear that. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Lanier?
Thank you so much, Mr. Eatman, for this summary and presentation, and congratulations on your new endeavor. Just a quick point, actually, Mayor, the comment that you made about Summit Marketplace was one of the questions that I had. Because of the results, it seemed like it would be great to continue that during Summit. But the other point that I wanted to make is during the panel discussion, at least in the 3rd Ward, we had young adults on that panel, and it was great to see the perspective of what I call early careerists and college students and their thinking through their lens and the experience that they're having in the city of Grand Rapids. So thank you for kind of bringing that audience to the forefront, because frequently we're not moving out of the way to allow the young people to come forward and speak on some of the issues that many of us have talked about for years. So thank you for that. And I just think this is a great summary, great data. I know Stacy's nodding, so I'm sure she's probably the data person in the background, but thank you so much for sharing this data, because I think it'll not only help the city, but help the community to do better work in the community as we're trying to address some of the inequities that exist. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to Mr. Eatman, and I will offer my congratulations. So, my questions were really around, one, I wanted to say thank you to the city, the many city staff and all the volunteers. So I too saw people over a couple of those days, and it was hot. And so I think, we try things and we iterate things, especially during this time of COVID. So I know a few people had a lot of plans to relax after that 5th day. And the Summit, I had a chance to be at the Summit Marketplace. I bought a lot of things, and it was great. So I'd like to offer, that was one of my questions too. I'd like to offer, if there's ways that maybe some, in my other hat, no conflicts, but doing some connection points to some of our entrepreneurial partners. There might be some ways that we can connect and support, because we know that is a big lift for city, but it might fit into other organizations' missions as well. So I'll offer that as a discussion point. I think the other thing is I really appreciate the evaluation tool. I think we all know up here we never quite please anybody. Somebody wants this for lunch, maybe ran out of the gift bag, maybe whatever, this product didn't exist. And so I think that shows the real desire to make sure that we celebrate the great work that happened, and then always continue to look at that evaluation. Yesterday, somebody reminded me that everyone wants to save the world, but no one wants to help mom with the dishes. So a lot of times we have people who are like, and this didn't happen, and this didn't happen, and this didn't happen. And, what I always try to encourage is, hey, we'd love for you to come back in, be a leader. There's always the realities of the budget. We're certainly in a year where we're managing, our budget and expectations. And so I want to offer that to people who might be watching is, if there's something you'd like to do different or try different, there was a lot of people who went into this, and we'd love to continue to evaluate. So I really appreciate you all taking that seriously and saying, what can we learn? Mr. Eatman was at our regular neighborhood association
committee meeting. So this is a body of all the representatives. So Commissioner Lanier and Commissioner Repard and I attend those, and there was regular communication about what was happening. There was regular connection points about how people could plug in. I know we received that to our emails. Individual groups could decide if they want to stay connected. We know that people need to hear things 7 times by 7 ways, but I appreciate all that communication that went forth prior to this event happening. So thank you, and we'll see you soon, not goodbye.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you for mentioning that. We were very intentional about the communication, especially with our neighborhood associations. We started that process back in November. They take a break in December, but we actually held special meetings with them, along with having a liaison for the neighborhood association that sits on that planning committee that meets with them separately outside of the meetings that I have. So communication and making sure that we have players at the table to contribute was crucially important, and that's how we literally plan our summits and future summits to make sure that we aren't missing any people or any voices at the table to help influence in that. So it's very intentional and very collaborative in regards to that. Now, whether people show up, that's the difference. But we definitely make sure that we put forth the effort to be as engaging as possible, because this is impacting their life and the quality of their life of the residents that we serve. And so we want to make sure that that was very, very much so the top of our priority. So thank you.
I'll just express my gratitude too. It was great. The rainbow banner hoop thing is also, I mean, it was exactly that. It attracted people. This is where you should go. The panel discussion at Richmond was fabulous. Tempest did a great job facilitating. And I think that the thing that I noticed the most when I walked through was how we were supporting local business and particularly BIPOC businesses, from the food to everything. It was really comprehensive, and I really appreciated that. I didn't get a chance to go to the marketplace, but that's why you got to do it again so that I can go next time. But I do think that returning to one day where everybody's all in a room, 300 responses for evaluation is actually pretty good. But you certainly get a higher percentage when everybody's in the room and you say, do it before you leave today. So hopefully that'll just be easier to get that information next year. But nice work. Thank you.
Thank you. We agree.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say my personal thanks to Jordan. It was the mayor appointed me to the Affordable Housing Task Force, and that was, I think, Jordan's first assignment at the city, and we got to work together on that project, and it's great, now that congratulations on your leap here, but, it's fun to see some of those things that we worked on together, 6 years ago coming to life now with the Affordable Housing Fund getting funded, and, the fact that we take money from each pilot and put it into that fund, and some other, there was a bunch of ideas that have happened that that have come to fruition, and so your leadership there was great to help make that, facilitate that to success, and it's fun to see you have grown. And then, and then just from the perspective of the summit, I think my only feedback would be, I've just heard from some of the, the neighborhood associations in the First Ward especially, that, they'd just like to be more engaged in the process along the way as Summit plays out, especially, I think there's appreciation that they've existed, in the ward was great, but they'd just like to be more engaged in the development of Summit and be a partner at the table along the way.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And yes, you're right. I appreciate your guidance when I first started, and I was assigned to you, and it was a great journey. So I appreciate your help along the way. So thank you.
All right. Any Commissioner?
Yeah, I just simply want to say congratulations. I could be happier for you. I'm very familiar with the space that you're going to occupy, but really want to thank you for the time that you put in here. You were very present, and that's very much appreciated. And I know that I always look to both you and Stacy and the work that you all were doing in concert together. And I just really, really appreciate that, because if ever there was a need for intentionality around equity in particular, it's now and it has been, and you all have, again, carried that torch, and just, again, very proud of you, but again, more than anything, happy for the direction in which you're going. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you so much. With that, we'll go ahead and close this Committee of the Whole meeting. Commissioners, why don't we take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll meet downstairs at 10:40 in room 601 for executive session.